The clocks, the Microsoft says it's 10 o'clock, even if the clocks don't. So we are live now. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the executive meeting this morning, the 26th of January. Everybody, all the executive members are here. I don't have apologies. No, they're not? No, Jonathan's
on. John. Councillor Hawkins' apologies. Thank you.
Councillor Hawkins has sent his apologies. Again. No, he was here last time. He was here last time. Members, we need to approve, first of all, the minutes of the last meeting. Is everybody in agreement that they're a true record?
That's carried. Thank you, Leader.
In fact, I think only Councillor Baldry and I were at the last meeting, weren't we, Councillor Baldry? Yes. And Councillor Hawkins, yes. Public question time. I haven't been notified of any public questions. So we will move on to the executive forward plan. Division of the agenda. Sorry, before declarations of interest. There will be a need to, there may be a need to divide the agenda if we want to talk about some of the papers later on. Declarations of interest. Members, do you have any declarations to make? I'm going on with the agenda. No? No? Okay, fine. All right. So now we're on to the forward plan. Sorry about that. I was reading it off the modern.gov agenda, which doesn't give me all the bits. I should have known there were things there to trip me up. Members, do you have any questions on the forward plan? I think there is one item of business which will be added in March, and I don't think it's there yet, and I'm trying hard to remember what it is. Can somebody help me out? I think, Ali, can you remember, did I ask you to put something on the forward plan for the next agenda?
It was the
yeah, okay, yes. Sorry, it was the AONB agreement, the new agreement with the AONB. Thank you. So that will be added to the March agenda, so that we've got it up and running for the beginning of the financial year. Councillor Baldry.
Just looking 3 months ahead, April looks fairly thin for agenda items. Is there some possibility that meeting may be cancelled? Because that would suit a great many of us.
The chief executive has just whispered in my ear that we will need a meeting in April, unfortunately. But it's reasonably early in April. So
not a problem for me, but
yeah.
And well, it may be that Councillor Hall and I are the only people here.
Well, we may be, but there's only 6 of us who need to attend, so we will be here. Right. So if there are no more questions on the forward plan, we'll move on to item 7 on the agenda. Councillor Bastow, month 8 revenue budget monitoring, please.
Thank you, Leader. Morning, everyone. This is the second revenue monitoring report of the 2022-23 year and covers the first 8 months of the financial year up to the 30th of November 2022. The report asks the executive to note the forecast income and expenditure variations for the year and the overall projected deficit of £46,000. This equates to 0.4% of the total budget of £10.464 million. An analysis of the projected variances against budget are shown in Table 1 of the report. The overall position is very similar to that to what was presented at the executive in October in the previous revenue monitoring report, when a deficit of £54,000 was forecasted. Although there is very little movement overall, there are a couple of significant changes in this latest report. These relate to one, planning income, where the projected income shortfall has increased from £100,000 to £260,000 based on current income levels. However, it should be noted that this is a volatile area which can be very difficult to forecast given the impact of large applications. The other area item 2 I've had on my list here is investment income, where income is now anticipated to be £577,000 over budget, over £577,000 over budget, compared to the £377,000 reported previously based on current interest rates. The position of the main income streams for the period 1st of April 2022 to the 30th of November 2022 is summarised in a table on pages 22 and 23 of the agenda. As discussed at the Budget Advisory Committee on 19th of January 23, an update on the spend on the waste service to date will be included in the next revenue budget monitoring report, due to be presented to the executive on the 2nd of March this year. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Bastone. Members of the executive, do you have any questions? Other members, do you have any questions on this paper? Councillor Bastone, would you like to move the recommendations then, please?
Thank you. Thank you, Leader. In that case, I'll move the recommendation, which is that the executive resolves to note the forecast income and expenditure variations for the 2022-23 financial year and the overall projected deficit of £46,000, which is 0.4% of the total budget of £10.464 million.
I'll second that. Any comments? Councillor Hopwood.
Sorry, Leader, can I just say, just on that last comment from Councillor Bastone, as to what a well balanced budget we've had from last year, and to be 0.04% is good prudent financial planning from this council in the last year. So I give my thanks to Councillor Bastone for overseeing, of course, our finance officers for doing such a good job, and I think this council should be commended on the way it's operated the budget. Thank you.
Yes, I would agree, because I think it's plain from the tables in the report that things do move around during the year, and really the thing that our financial officers are so good at doing is balancing up what's going to go up and what's going to go down, and landing pretty near the right place in the middle. So well done. Thank you. Any more comments on that? Because if not, we'll go to the vote. Right, everybody happy with the recommendation?
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item 8, which is the capital programme monitoring. Councillor Bastone, that's you again, please.
Thank you, Leader. Just finding my place. This is our standard capital monitoring report, which is presented to executive once a quarter. And this report also covers the period 1st of April 2022 to 30th of November 2022, and asks the executive to note the content. A new reporting process is in place, and the narrative around capital schemes previously included in this budget monitoring report will now be part of the integrated performance management update reports. The Q3 update is item 14 on this agenda. The capital budget monitoring report will purely focus on capital expenditure against budget. A summary of the capital programme is shown at Appendix A. All of the capital projects are within their approved budget. The award of contracts is subject to the Council's procurement rules on competitive tendering, and therefore the allocated budget is commercially sensitive. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Bastone. Any questions? Members of the executive? No? Other members? Can't see any hands up. So, Councillor Bastone, would you? Well, it's only for noting this paper anyway, but
yeah, the
so
recommendation is that the recommendation is that the executive note the content of the capital programme monitoring report. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I'll I'll second that if you're moving it. Does anybody want to raise anything on this paper? I think it's all, yeah, Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. Just on 3.1, section 106 deposits, 7 and 058 and whatever it is, but it's an awful lot of money. That, come on guys, let's spend it. You know, ward members should be having projects in their ward and pushing these projects forward. I know there's some, you know, some of these projects some of this money seems to be really old, but it's money that can be spent within South Hams district. So I would encourage all members to have a look and see if there's any money coming through in their ward and get it spent if they can.
I would endorse your comments, Councillor Hopwood, and in fact I would go a bit further, that if there is a ward that can't spend their money, let me have it and I'll spend it in my ward, because we've got nothing left to spend.
Well, Alexis is very good at getting projects through when members have got something that the money needs spending on, but please remind your wards, and I would remind everybody that housing money now can be spent anywhere in the district. So if you've got some housing money in your ward and you don't spend it, it is likely to get spent elsewhere. So be warned. It is a lot of money. We obviously can't spend it all at once, but it is time that some of it, we did find good projects to do with it. And I think most parishes now have got OSSR reports, so some of the money at least should be ready for spending, but it's up to the parishes or the local organisations to work up schemes.
Yes, thank you, Leader. If I just add to that, I think it's absolutely critical that we do get on with making progress on the spend of the housing money, and we need to ensure that we are critically challenging all of those allocations, and where it's not possible to use it within a reasonably short timescale within the designated area, we will be bringing proposals back, Leader. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bates. Councillor Holway.
Thanks, Leader. I wonder if it's time to reissue the list of individual balances on section 106 against each scheme.
Well, the table is in the agenda, so it's there for all members to read. If they don't read it, it's because they haven't read the agenda. So I think they can find it and find out what amounts are available in their wards and get to and find some way of spending it. Right. Any other questions? Because if there aren't, we'll. Oh, Councillor Rowe.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. We do get a list published every month on our DMC papers, and we go through them every month. We scan through them. I wouldn't say we put a lot of time and effort into it, but members do know where the money is available and they should be spending it. As Hilary or Councillor Bastow has said, we haven't got any left in our ward, but if somebody doesn't want to spend it, we'll have it in Dartmouth or Kingsware or Stoke Gabriel even. I think, you know, I do totally endorse we should be spending this money as is available as soon as possible. Thank you.
Yes, is it possible to turn down the volume of people coming in? That's not a criticism of Councillor Rowe. This is how the system is set. So,
oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. No, Rose, it's not your fault. It's just the way that.
Blast you out.
Well, you are blasting us out, but it's not your fault.
I'm sorry, I couldn't come today, but I've got.
No, it's
I've
all
got
right.
a Jersey cold.
Oh, okay, right, okay.
Leader, I wasn't criticising Councillor Rowe.
No, I know you weren't. I know you weren't, and it's not her fault. I've already said that. So everybody, the section 106 summary is at Appendix B. So please look at it if you are listening in, and look at what is to spend in your ward. With that, I think we'll go to the vote because I don't think there are any further questions. Everybody happy with the noting of this paper?
That's unanimous for noting. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. So item 9 is really the main meat of this agenda, which is the draft revenue and capital budget proposals. Now, the Budget Advisory Committee, which is the new committee of backbench members, met last week and had a very thorough session going through this agenda paragraph by paragraph, thanks to Mrs. Buckle, and all the executive members were present at that meeting. So I'm hoping that there won't be a huge amount of discussion today on this because we've got a lot of other business to get through. But as everybody knows, this report provides members with the latest revenue and capital budget proposals for 23-24, with the report setting out proposals for the council to achieve a balanced budget for next year. The council is currently forecasting a £299,562 budget gap by the following year, 24-25. The cumulative aggregated budget gap by 25-26 is 1.23 million if no action has been taken in each individual year to close the budget gap annually. And in fact, we know that our finance team will always do that. So they always warn us what the budget gap is going to be, and then they always find some magic way of closing it. The budget was considered in detail by the Budget Advisory Committee last Thursday, and I'm grateful to members' views on the budget and the 2 additional recommendations which have been put forward to the executive. These were around no longer imposing a charge to use council-owned public conveniences, and for an additional tree officer to be added to the council's staffing establishment. And I'll come back to those in a second. With regards to the setting of the council tax, the report recommends to increase council tax for 23-24 by £5, as was recommended in principle in September. This would mean a Band D council tax for 23-24 of £185.42, which represents an increase of less than 10 pence a week, or in other words, a 2.77% increase. This is less than the 2.99% council tax referendum limit set by the government for district councils next year. This recommendation was also supported by the Budget Advisory Committee. The district councils network have made the point to the government that the increase from 2% to 3% in the council tax referendum limit is wiped out in virtually every district by the 150% increase in external fees nationally. And in fact, I raised this with the finance work stream, so I think that's probably where that comment's come from. An extra 1% increase in council tax for South Hams generates £71,000 of extra income. The 150% increase in external audit fees equates to an extra cost of £75,000. So that's just to show you how it's more than the extra 1%. The provisional local government finance settlement for 23-24 is again a holding position designed for stability and certainty. Well, in fact, that's what it's designed for, but a 3-year settlement would give us much more stability and certainty. And there'll be 1 more year of new homes bonus confirmed by the government for 23-24 next year. Financial reform, such as the business rates baseline reset and the fair funding review, has been deferred to at least 25-26. The report also recommends proposals for the 2023-24 capital programme of 2.035 million and the proposed financing of the capital programme. That's all part of the budget. Now, to go back to the 2 items suggested by the Budget Advisory Committee of taking the charges off public toilets, we have looked at this and we consider that's a very reasonable ask. And so we will be, well, after the vote this morning, proposing to implement that as soon as practically possible. I don't have a date for it, but it will be done as soon as we can. And the tree officer, which I was fairly certain of at the meeting, but have now had it confirmed, in fact, provision has already been made for the council to have an extra, a new senior arboricultural officer post. And this was advertised on the 19th of January. I've got the link for the job profile. So if anybody wants that link, I'm sure it can be sent out, can't it, Mr. White?
Absolutely, Leader.
Thank you. So the new role covers the duties of the council as a landowner to undertake appropriate inspections of and works to mitigate their risk. The post is a full-time level 5 post on a fixed-term 2-year contract funded from the revenue grants earmarked reserve. The closing date for the post advert is the 19th of February, and interviews are scheduled for the 2nd of March, with the anticipated appointment in early to mid-April. Early indications since advertisement last week is positive, with interest shown from a number of potentially high-calibre candidates. Recognising the pressure upon the existing senior tree officer, that's Lee, whom you all know, the role profile of the new arboricultural officer includes the requirement on occasion to provide cover. This will add resilience to the function, either when Lee is taking leave or if he's sick, or during periods of exceptionally high work pressure. In addition to the above, there is a close working relationship with Rob Sakula, Amanda Urmson, the landscape officer, and Alex Wish, who provide additional capacity if and when needed. Alongside the above, as a council, we support the South Hams Tree Warden Network, who are a voluntary brigade associated with and led by the Tree Council. They're appointed by parish councils as their local contact on tree issues and advising about applications, etc. The degree of engagement fluctuates given our resources. We've recently met with the Tree Warden Network and the South Hams Society to outline the breadth of support provided by the team, and we will continue to work with them to maximise the benefits of a partnership approach. So, in other words, I think that the request from the Budget Advisory Committee is covered by this appointment, which is very good news. It's just that actual news wasn't public yet. So both the requests from the Budget Advisory Committee are acceded to by the Executive, and we actually back the recommendations. So with that, I'm going to pass to the Executive to see if there are any questions on anything in the budget. Councillor Baldry.
This, sorry, and with apologies to Lisa, who explained everything exceedingly well at the workshop when we went through the budget. But I see on here in Appendix A, halfway down, Members Sustainable Community Locality Fund, underspent by 49,000, and I'm sure members will be rushing like mad to spend as much as possible in the future. What I can't find on here, and it's probably me not seeing where to look for it, the other members fund, which is the Climate Change and Biodiversity Fund. I can't see where that is. And well, the question is, how much is that underspent?
On page 27 of the agenda, Leader, that shows the climate change earmark reserve, and there was 553,000 in that reserve. That was the opening balance, and we're predicting to spend about 233,000 of that. So the 93,000, which is for the locality fund, is within that. But we can obtain from members how much of that is left to be spent. Haven't got a detailed list of that at the moment, but it is within that 233 in terms of commitments against the climate change reserve.
And thank you. It would be helpful to know how much is underspent, so that as with the S106 money, we can put some pressure on members to get it spent. So the supplementary question is, what happens to that? Is that carried forward if there's anything left, or does that disappear with the members at the end of this council?
I think our intention would be that is carried forward. But I know with the members, the locality fund, generally at the end of the 4-year term, we don't carry forward any underspend.
Hence my question about this separate fund. If that will be carried forward on a ward basis for the new members of this council.
Councillor Baldry, can I bring in Mr. Powell, because I think he wants to say something on this.
Thank you, Chris. Is that better? Yeah. So of the £93,000 that we had in the original budget, £72,000 has been spent by members, so there's £21,000 left at the moment. And certainly I think the intention would be to carry that forward. for future members to spend on the same issues.
I'm not sure about those figures, Leader, but the principle I want to establish, it will be carried forward on a ward by ward basis.
Yeah, I think it's the principle that we want to get rather than anything else. The figures we can look into. All right. Right. Any more questions from members? Any questions from other members then? No, I can't see any. Well, in that case, I'm going to move the recommendations on page 39 and 40 of the agenda. I'm not going to read them all out because they're quite long and complex, and members have been taken through them very carefully at the last meeting. So, and I moved those recommendations. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second those, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Bastone. Right. Does anybody want to make any comments on the budget? Or there are some amendments to the recommendations which are up on the screen. So that not quite as you got in your papers, but I think anybody, even on Teams, will be seeing them on the screen. And they're regarding the two recommendations from the Budget Advisory Committee, which we're happy to include. But so it's moved with those extra recommendations. Now, any comments from anybody? Councillor Hop.
Thank you, Chairman. I welcome the addition of the council no longer imposes a charge to use council-owned public convenience. I think that's a really good step forward. We are in a different era post-COVID from when those charges were first put in place, and we have people are far more doing staycations nowadays, and the South Hams is a go-to place. Because we do live in an exceptionally spectacular part of the world. So I welcome that addition. And also the resolution about the 100% premium on council tax on second homeowners. It probably won't make much difference to second homeowners paying 100% more council tax, but it is definitely welcomed because it will help income. So I'm glad that really that this council is looking forward, and it's certainly a good news budget and well balanced, and not as hard to balance this year as in previous years because of the prudent financial planning we've had over the past 4 years. So I think this year it's been a good budget to balance.
Thank you, Councillor Hopwood. Any further comments? Councillor Baldry.
Thank you, Leader. Excellent news about no longer charging for public lavatories. It shows democracy in action that we listened to the Budget Advisory Group, panel, committee, whatever it was. we listened to them and taken it into account. Some of us have been fighting for a very long time, long before this council, that there should be no charging for public lavatories, and I think it is a very, very welcome step. I will not be voting, as in previous years, for the increase in council tax, Leader. I shall briefly say the reasons, which is that I think council tax is a very unfair tax. It is a regressive tax. It hits people irrespective of their ability to pay. But the government insists that we raise money in this way, and I am not willing to play their game. We are expected to raise money through this in order that they may reduce how much money they pay to local authorities. It is an unfair tax. I'm not willing to play the government's game and continue to prop up their refusal to fund local authorities properly, even if that means increases in national taxation.
Councillor Baldry, you'll be aware that we do have a council tax reduction scheme, which is coming up later in the agenda, which is designed to mitigate for people who really cannot afford to pay council tax. I have a certain sympathy with you, and I think in the circumstances, I shall suggest that we vote on recommendation 1, little 1, separately, so that you can record your abstention if you want to, and then after that we'll take the rest of the recommendations. Councillor Holway.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to say, yes, I also welcome the removal of charges for the toilets. I think when we think about sustainable travel and sustainable
Councillor
tourism,
Holway, we're not opening that up today, so can we
We're not.
talk about it another day? Right, Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry to come back. It's just on what Councillor Baldry's just said about the £5 per annum council tax rise. I don't think any of us agree with it, but the fact is we have no choice. We have to get money from somewhere. It equates to 0.096 pence per week on the council tax. So it's less than 10 pence a week on the council tax. That's the district council's part. We don't know what other authorities are going to put theirs up by, but I think we've put ours up by the minimum we can. And we didn't take the government up on putting it up by increasing it to 3.99%. We've stuck at our £5 a year. And I think we have to recognise that things go up, but for it to go up by less than 10 pence a week for a Band D property I would feel is acceptable, although still done uncomfortably.
Any further comments on the budget? Councillor Brazil.
Yeah, sorry it's a bit late, but Victor showed me the red things that have come in, and can I welcome that? I think that's good news, and thank you very much for that. Really appreciated it. Just on the council tax, I understand what Nikki says about that it's only 10p, but it's a point of principle, really. And you know, I mean, I'll be voting against it at county as well, and there it's a lot more. You know, it means a lot more. So I don't think you can go, oh, well, because it's only a little, I'm in favour of it, or it's a lot, I'm against it. It's just basically, are you for it or against it? I'm against it. Keith's against it. I appreciate people will have their own views and how they work it out. But you know, we'll have that discussion at the budget meeting, no doubt. I look forward to it. All right.
Councillor Brazil, I think a lot of us would be on your side in this, and Councillor Baldry's side, if it weren't for the fact that we're caught in the bind of the core spending power, which is discussed at paragraph 3.5 in the agenda. And the problem with the core spending power is that the government now assumes that you are going to put up council tax by the maximum amount, and if you don't, then you've lost that amount for this year with compound interest for all future years. So it's a bit of a Hobson's choice, to be honest, and because the amount we can put it up, and because the audit fees are more than going to consume that extra amount we could put it up by, I really feel that, you know, we are duty bound for future generations of the council as much as ourselves to ask our residents to pay an extra just under 10p a week and come with us on this one, because otherwise it could store up a lot of trouble for the future. And I think it's on that basis that we, the administration, are recommending this increase in council tax. It's not because we want to, it's because we're looking to the future and we want to guard the situation for future generations. So that's why we're doing it. Now, any further comments on the budget? Because if not, I'm going to have a vote on recommendation 1.1, which is the increase in council tax, so that if Councillor Baldry wants to make his stand, he can. So let's vote on item 1.1 in the recommendations now. Those in favour, please show.
That's 4 in favour of part 1. Thank you, Leader.
Those against?
With 1 against. Thank you.
Okay, so that takes care of that. Now, members of the executive, are you happy to vote on all the other recommendations en bloc? Yes? Yes. Okay, so we will now vote on all the other recommendations en bloc. Those in favour, please show.
That is unanimous to the remaining recommendations. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Right, so we're now going to pass on to item 10, which is the write-off report. Councillor Bastone.
Thank you, Leader. The Executive Committee will be familiar with the format of the write-off report, which covers the period 1st of October 2021 to 31st of March 2022. The report provides details of the amounts under £5,000 approved for write-off by the Section 151 officer. Amounts in excess of £5,000 require committee approval before they can be written off. The total debt to be written off is £241,504.73p, and whilst this seems high, it is predominantly due to individuals and businesses using insolvency measures as a way of discharging their indebtedness, and possibly reflects some of the financial and economic impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The writing off of debts which are deemed to be irrecoverable is recognised as good practice by central government, the relevant government agencies and accountancy bodies. Debts are only considered for write-off after taking all possible steps to collect them. The council makes appropriate bad debt provisions for all the revenue streams detailed in the report, and it recognises that a proportion of debt will be irrecoverable. The council tax collection rate for 2021-22 was 98.3%, which was 2.5% higher than the national average. The collection rate for business rates was 90.1%, which is also 2.5%, which is also above the national average of 95.5%. Debts remaining outstanding for the 21-22 financial year will continue to be pursued, and any debts written off will be periodically reviewed and resurrected where appropriate. Debts are recovered in accordance with our recovery policy, which is published on our website. Alongside this policy, officers are recommending that we consider a supplementary write-off policy to contribute to the even more effective management of debt. This will ensure more consistent debt recovery processes and procedures, essentially leaving no stone unturned. It is intended that this will be in place by the 1st of April 2023 and is part of a suite of measures focused on improving collection rates. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Bastone. Members of the Executive, do you have any questions for Councillor Bastone on this? No? Would you like to move the recommendations then? Oh, hang on. I'll just ask if any of the other members have got any questions. Can't see any hands going up there. Right. Would you like to move the recommendation then, please, Councillor Bastone?
Thank you, Leader. I move the recommendations set out on page 95.
Thank you. I'll second those. Right. Any comments, anybody? Yeah, Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you, Chairman. 2.3 and 2.4, Councillor Bastow mentioned it in his introduction with regards to the high collection rate for council tax for residents and businesses. And I really think we owe a debt of gratitude to our residents and businesses because our collection rates are so high, and I think we should be thanking them because times have been tough and times are going to get harder. We are now in a cost of living crisis. We weren't quite there this time last year. We are definitely there now. So I don't know if in 12 months' time these figures will look so good, but at the moment I really think thank you to our businesses and our residents for paying their council tax. Having said that, this council, and I'm going to in the next paper, there's going to be a bit on the council tax reduction scheme. So the council has a lot of help to give residents if they're struggling to pay their council tax. And as a council, we are committed to helping our residents with the cost of living crisis. And we will be helping them in any way we can to meet the debts, including council tax. So I thank residents and businesses once again.
Thank you. Any other comments? Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Well, just briefly, quite rightly, Councillor Hopwood has thanked businesses and residents, but I think we should thank our officers as well, because it doesn't just happen. It happens because of hard and diligent work by the officers. Thank you, residents. Thank you, businesses, but also thank you, officers.
Yes, I'd endorse that, and I'd also endorse it because it's important that we follow up on any debts and ascertain why they've happened and whether the debt could be collectible, because ultimately any debts that aren't collected actually fall as a burden on people in future years because we can't count on collecting all the tax. So so it is a kind of a two-way street, but I would thank officers for the measures they're undertaking to keep things straight as possible. Anyway, any further comments? Because if not, we will move to the vote on this one. Those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. And so we move on to item 11, which is the council tax reduction scheme. Councillor Hopwood, you're introducing this one. Yes, it is. All right, get yourself on the right page. It's all right.
Thank you, Chairman. The report covers a number of important decisions in relation to council tax, including further ways we will be supporting our residents through the cost of living crisis. This report shows how we are trying our very hardest to help those in need in whatever way we can, no matter how big or small. The council recognises how important it is to support all residents during the cost of living crisis, and particularly those on the lowest incomes. To this end, we have consulted on a council tax reduction scheme for 2023-24, which includes a proposal to uplift most income bands by 20%, i.e. above current inflation. This means that low-income households can increase their income and still be entitled to a little extra support with their council tax bills. The proposed scheme should also be less complex through replacing various earnings disregards with a single disregard of £25. It also provides more support for self-employed claimants with disabilities or caring responsibilities. Overall, we have received 58 consultation responses, with the majority of respondents in support of the proposals. Devon County Council, as the largest major precepting authority, have indicated that they are happy with the recommendations. Whilst I recognise that the amount of responses was very low, many of these were from residents who do not claim any form of reduction and will not be entitled to any reduction. The consultation was carried out in line with this council's consultation and engagement strategy. Shortly before the Christmas break, the government announced a council tax support fund for both pension and working age residents who are receiving council tax reduction, also known as council tax support, on 1st of April 23. We have been given a provisional allocation of £130,930, which will be used to make a mandatory payment of up to £25 to eligible council tax accounts. This will again give eligible residents some much needed support in paying their council tax and will be applied to the 2023-24 council tax bills to be sent out in March. In late spring, we will use the surplus of any funding to provide additional cost of living support. Finally, we all know the negative impact second homes and long-term empty properties have on the South Hams. The report sets out the current position regarding council tax discounts and premiums, and updates on further premiums we will be able to charge once the Levelling Up and Regeneration Bill becomes law. In view of the current increased speed of progress of the bill through Parliament, a standalone report will be brought to full council in February. This will ensure that all members receive a comprehensive briefing on this important issue and an update on the content and progress of the bill, which may have become law by the date of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hopwood. Members of the executive, have you got any questions for Councillor Hopwood? No? Everything all right? Other members, any questions? Okay, Councillor Hopwood, would you move the recommendations?
Yeah, move the recommendation.
Second.
Okay,
right.
well, that's fine, Councillor. Any comments on this? It is an excellent paper, and I think it is worth noting that originally we were the only local authority in Devon that chose to do our council tax reduction scheme by this method, and it was rather frowned upon as sort of not being the thing to do. But interesting now that everybody else is following us and doing it, because it is much easier to operate and has been shown to be pretty fair. I think the bands have been well calculated, and the reductions are pertinent to those bands. So well done to the officers for reviving it and moving it forward, so that it's fit for purpose for the next year or so. And if there aren't any comments, we will take a vote on it. So please show if you're in favour with the recommendations.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Right, so we move on to the monthly housing crisis paper. And this month, it's changes to the financial assistant and enforcement policies. This includes the Better Care Fund.
Sorry, I've just realised that it includes landlords of private rental properties. Was I meant to declare an interest? No.
I don't think so, because I don't think you're more affected than any other landlord. David saying no? No, thank you. Yes, you're no more affected than any other landlord would be. So, right. So this includes the Better Care Fund financial assistance policy, the electrical safety standard in the private rental sector financial penalty policy, the minimum energy standard and energy performance certificate enforcement policy, and Appendix 5 is the civil penalty policy. So there's quite a lot of behind the scenes kind of admin stuff here, and probably quite difficult for members to get their heads around some of it. But don't worry, because Dave Sexton is here, and Dave Sexton will be using and enforcing those policies with his team. So that actually leaves members very little to worry about in the generality. But I think the one part of it that it is worth members getting their head around is the part that makes any changes to the way that DFGs and the supplementary part of that, which is the financial assistance scheme, are administered, because that is where members are likely to run up against this with residents. Now, what I'm going to do is take some, read out some of the executive summary, because actually it explains it very well about what it's all about. So means testing is currently one of the major parts of the grant application process. Removing means testing from bathroom and internal lifts, this is the Better Care Fund financial assistance policy, will mean that the grant processing is quicker for many applicants. This will mean that we'll be able to provide adaptations more quickly to vulnerable residents, and where it applies, speed up the transfer of care from hospital to home. Now, one of the big things there are two things that hold up DFGs, in my experience. The first one is getting the OT to visit. And because the occupational therapist is a county council function, we don't have an awful lot of control over this, except to say that, in fairness, they do get round the work as fast as they can. There's just a lot of work to get round. But then the second part, once the OT has approved what is needed, there was a means testing process that was often long and quite difficult, because particularly if somebody was in hospital and whoever was trying to do it for them couldn't find all the bits of paper they needed to prove what they needed to prove. In short, it held things up. Now, we do not, the last thing we want to be accused of is this horrible term bed blocking. And so we're moving whatever we can to get these adaptations done quickly, so that people's homes are fit for purpose for them to return to as soon as possible. So that is the reason for lifting the means testing on that part of the grants. Then there's a proposal to increase the grant amounts to reflect the need to cover the costs from the increases in costs of labour and materials over the last year. The grant regime is funded by central government's Better Care Fund, and the increase in price of adaptations will be covered by this funding. Now, the Better Care Fund, rightly or wrongly, goes to the county council, and then they divvy it up and pass it on to the districts. We've always done quite well out of this because we've always been quite good at spending the money, and much better actually than some of the other districts. So seeing this, the county council rightfully think, right, well, they can spend the money so they can have a bit more than pro rata than some of the other districts. So we have traditionally done quite well out of it. And this policy will help us to continue doing that. And I shall ask Dave to perhaps comment at the end on whether the other districts are falling in with what we're doing as well. So moving on to the other things, the electrical safety standards in the private rented sector England regulations 2020 have formalised electrical safety requirements in domestic rented properties. The regulation now clearly states that the landlord responsibilities, and it allows local authorities to issue civil penalties for non-compliance. Now, obviously, from our point of view, this is a much easier and quicker route than going through the courts, but the standard of proof required is the same. So it still isn't easy, but it's just quicker given the backlog in the courts. And also, it is right that landlords should be responsible and not let properties that aren't up to standard. Councils have powers to enforce the Energy Efficiency Private Rented Property England and Wales regulations as well. This allows local authorities to issue fines for rental properties which do not have a compliant energy performance certificate. And I think they have to be up to band D, don't they, Dave? Is that the minimum, or is it band C now?
The current standard is still F, but there is a move towards higher standards.
Right. Okay. So you can still be let something that's pretty cold then, and it's going to cost you a lot to heat. But things are moving on now. With all these things, we can only move at the speed that the government moves us at. And I thank Dave for getting all this sorted out, because it is quite well. There's quite a lot of things here, and tackling non-compliant landlords on this will. The aim of updating the enforcement policy is to increase the range of measures open to the council for tackling non-compliant landlords, and to increase the council's capacity to undertake enforcement where there's clear evidence that offences have been committed. And that's what we need. We really need the clear evidence. So that's basically what's in this package. Now, Dave's here to answer any questions, if you have any. This is, I admit, not a simple paper, but Dave Sexton, thank goodness, is always here to hold anybody's hands when you've got a problem, and he's always happy to help members out if they think they've discovered a problem. So he's the go-to person on this. Members of the executive, any questions? Councillor Baldry.
Thank you, Leader. Paragraphs 1.10 through to 1.13, which is damp and mould. There have been, as it says in the paper, have been appalling cases, not least in the Rochdale case, which is the one that got a great deal of publicity, but across the country, the media are picking up, and in particular, ITV News has been concentrating on a number of absolutely shocking cases. Really, are we, and the government have, some of us would say, too late, reacted by sending out this letter. What are the early indications about across this district? Have we got problems, serious problems, or which we ought to be aware of as the South Hams executive?
The housing stock in South Hams does suffer from damp and mould. We do call it, like at the moment we're in damp and mould season. Usually starts about September, right through to about March. We're on the coast, we've got the moors, we've got westerly damp winds coming in. So we do have problems. Weather significantly is probably a hard one to really sort of to clarify, but we do investigate damp and mould complaints. I've been doing these inspections for 10 plus years, and I've come across some quite shocking conditions, but they tend to be small numbers. It tends to be like, actually, we can get in quite quickly and early, that we can sort of find out whether there is a structural problem, or there's a lifestyle problem, or another problem, which probably is now people can't afford to put the heating on. So it's like a third category now. So what as a team, what we're already doing is that we are robustly triaging complaints, because we do get some complaints saying it's a really bad damp and mould, but actually it's only a small bit in the corner. But obviously what we want to be ensuring is that we are intervening when there's significant risk to the occupiers. I've just currently taken over the chair of the Devon District Housing Managers. I've got my first meeting this afternoon. First on the agenda is damp and mould. So what I'll be looking for is a consistent approach across the districts, and making sure that we all robustly triaging and investigating complaints. Also, we're tasking an officer to be liaising with the housing associations, because, like I said, we tended in the past to, because they've got repairs team surveyors, a team of people who can deal with this, and say, look, this is your problem. We'll be now looking at more closely that, making sure that these cases are resolved, whether it is how they're living in the property, is it a structural problem, or is it because they can't afford the heating?
Yes, thank you for that, Dave. I would add to that I think we've now had in the report from Live West on their properties concerning mould, and Isabel Blake and I are going to go through that next week, probably together, to see what they're saying. But I think Dave is quite right in highlighting that often it's a combination of structural problems, lifestyles, and now the cost of living crisis, which is like the kind of triangle of a perfect storm for forming mould. And often if you move one of those pieces in a certain direction, and usually it's either lifestyle, it's lifestyle, you can improve things, but it often means sitting there with windows open when it's freezing cold and you haven't got any heating on, because that is the only way of blowing things through and getting rid of some of the damp, which is not easy. But there are other things you can do too, and I'm sure our team are more than ready to provide advice on that. Any further questions? Rest of members, do you have any questions on this? Because it's quite an important area, particularly for our residents. No? Well, in that case, I'm going to move the recommendations, which appear on page 121 of the agenda, that the Homes Assistance Policy is updated with the revised Better Care Fund Financial Assistance Policy 2022 to approve and implement the Electrical Safety Standards Civil Financial Penalty Policy and incorporate that into the Council's enforcement policy to allow officers to impose fines where necessary to landlords and improve private rented properties. And thirdly, to approve and implement the Energy Efficiency Standards Civil Financial Penalty Policy and incorporate into the Council's enforcement policy to allow officers to impose fines where necessary to landlords and improve private rented properties. I so move. Do I have a seconder?
Seconded.
Thank you. Now, do we have any comments on this? It is a complex area, and I think my best advice to members is please get in touch with Dave's team if in any doubt, particularly about the new policies on safety standards and energy efficiency standards. Councillor Hopwood.
Thank you. It is a complex area, and I just think we are lucky to have the expertise of someone like Mr. Sexton, who is looking after the residents of the South Hams with their problems, because we don't want to see anybody living in a substandard house. Just because you rent, it doesn't mean that that house should be of any lesser standard than if you were to own a house. I think everybody in every house should be treated exactly the same. And I'm glad that we are giving, we have the powers as an authority to make sure that the rented housing in the South Hams is up to a standard acceptable for residents to live in. So I welcome the paper, and I look forward to it working, working out so that housing stock is brought into if it is not of a good standard, then it is certainly brought into that standard.
Thank you. I think the other comment I'd make to members is that if you visit any residents or hear of any residents who are obviously struggling with their arrangements at home, either because they haven't got a stair lift and they need one, or they need a downstairs bathroom, or they need a shower instead of a bathtub. I think now removing the financial inquiries will mean that people who might have fallen either side of the line can now apply in confidence and know that they will get one, because I think a lot of people thought they'd do all the journey and then sort of at the last hurdle be told no, they couldn't have it because they didn't qualify on the financial scheme. Well, those people will now qualify. So if anybody really is struggling, we don't think this will be abused, because you do have to accept a fairly standard bathroom, although you can have some say in what you have. But so please recommend people to get in touch with the council if you know they're struggling. Right, if there are no further comments, with that we'll move to the vote. Please show if you're in favour of the recommendations.
That's 5 unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Right, thank you very much. So we move on now to the UK Shared Prosperity Fund and Rural England Prosperity Fund. Councillor Bastone.
Thank you, Leader. We are pleased to bring this report before you today and to ask you to approve the package of support for our businesses and communities set out within the UK Shared Prosperity Fund programme. We believe the projects we have developed in collaboration with a wide range of expert partner organisations will deliver great things for the South Hams, helping to meet our local climate and biodiversity goals, strengthening our economy and giving us the opportunity to lead the way nationally on clean growth activities. Our programme of activity will encourage the use of active and inclusive travel options for our residents, provide bespoke specialist support to help grow our agricultural and marine sectors, and it will provide wider business and community support to help with the adoption of renewable technologies and to make our rural communities more resilient. I hope you will approve the recommendations set out in this report to support the programme of activities that has been pulled together within our UK Shared Prosperity Fund proposals. To agree to allow procurement exemptions for a couple of the projects so that delivery can begin immediately, and to support the proposals recently submitted to government to draw down a further £843,000 of funding to help grow our economy. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Bastone. Members of the Executive, have you got any questions for Councillor Bastone on this? Councillor Baldry.
Yes, thank you, Leader. It's on the question of the going outside our normal tender arrangements for procurement. I always worry enormously. The rules on going out to tender are clearly there for good reasons. And if Mr. Fairbairn is listening to me, tell me to shut up if we need to go into part 2. But I really, I think, can we have paragraph 5 explains procurement and the reasons why we need to go outside the normal tender arrangements. But the two organisations concerned, I think I would like a bit more than is in the paper about the reasons why we are doing it, and secondly about the organisations concerned for which we are granting exemption and giving the contract to, about their status. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. First of all, I'm going to ask Mr. Fairbairn if he will confirm that we are in order. I think it's more of a time thing than anything else that we're looking for an exemption on this, isn't it?
Leader, that's my understanding. It is a question of timing. The going out to tender would require obviously a number of set stages to be gone through, each with a time constraint on them, and that would not enable us to deliver the project by the due date. I think also there is a question about limited markets, and that's why you're being asked to make the exemption.
I assume that I will be asked to sign off, or we will be asked to sign off an exemption if that's what's coming, if that's what it is, won't we?
Leader, effectively, at the moment, because we don't know all the values involved, we therefore don't know what the process will be. Effectively, it is the executive that is making the decision to sign it off and give the exemption today.
Right. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Right, we've got Mr. Shears here, so I'm going to ask him if he could give us a little bit more information on the Agri Alliance and the Apricot Centre, because that's what you want, and I'd quite like that as well, so that would be a good opportunity. Over to you, Mr. Shears. Thank you.
Of course, and thank you, and good morning, members. So in terms of the Devon Agritech Alliance, that's an entity that is effectively a partnership that consists of Devon County Council, University of Exeter, University of Plymouth. There's Cornwall campuses involved in their work as well. They've got the NFU, Rotherham group as well are involved in it, and a whole range of other partner organisations with various specialisms within the agricultural sector. So they've been established for a while now. They've been working on other agricultural sort of resilience programs and other activities within the agri sector recently, developing toolkits to help support the sector and things like that in partnership. And so they're a reasonably well defined entity. They also have over 140 farmers who are members of their group as well. So they've got a whole community that they can work with regards to pulling together proposals and projects and helping to align new and emerging technologies with relevant farms to pilot those technologies and test them in the field, as it were. Pardon the pun. And so as I say, so with them, because of the range of partners involved in that, I don't think that there's any other partnership of a similar nature. And when we've spoken to the individual organisations about various elements, they want it to be done through this partnership because they see it as adding a huge amount of value by working collectively on that as well. So that's the Agritech Alliance. With regards to the Apricot Centre, they are a specialist organisation based in Dartington who specialise in the delivery of regenerative farming training and but also getting people who are interested in the agricultural sector or agricultural workers directly literally into the field to learn about regenerative farming processes. They've secured other funding through educational channels as well from government, which they're now delivering. So they are effectively bringing match funding to the table for this project, which again will bolster the delivery that we're able to achieve by working with them. And they are also looking over time to become a member of the Devon Agritech Alliance as well. So they're a growing organisation. They've got several years now of activities behind them to show a track record of success in the training that they've been delivering to farms and to farm workers. And so they've pulled together part of the proposal that we're looking at, and it's highly unlikely that there would be another organisation locally that would have the expertise to deliver the package of support that they're looking at.
Come back,
Yeah, can you just remind me how the money splits between the two organisations? Or don't remind me, I don't know.
So there's a split between the various projects. So with regards to the Apricot Centre, I think because their activities start effectively from January, so they're currently operating at risk through this. But so over the 3-year period, they would be receiving approximately £145,000 to deliver activity, as well as the wider regenerative farming activity. That also includes consultancy to farmers regarding the use of land and the more efficient opportunities to use land and to repurpose land that isn't in useful uses at the moment. So that's the project that we're looking at with them. And with the Devon Agritech Alliance, Oh, sorry, and just to be clear as well, that is split between South Hams and West Devon, so effectively it's 72,500 for South Hams. Apologies for that. With regards to the Devon Agritech Alliance, it works out at approximately £160,000 for the support that they're looking to deliver.
That's 50/50.
Yes. So sorry, no, that's the South Ham. Sorry, I corrected myself with the figures. So in total, that would be a £320,000 programme across the two authority areas.
Thank you for that. I think one of the problems with this programme is that the government awarded the grants so late that year one of the session was practically consumed before we even knew that we'd got the money. So it's very difficult to get anything off the ground for year one, which is why we've got to get moving really quickly.
So just to be clear on that, so we were expecting, and government had told us that the outcome would be announced in October, and instead it was just before Christmas that we found out that the proposals had been successful.
Yes.
So thank you, Leader. So I think the questions that Councillor Baldry is raising are absolutely legitimate ones, and of course, if the programme had been organised in a more timely fashion by government, these are the questions that we would have been asking ourselves some while ago. But I think it's very clear from what Mr. Shears has said that the officers have undertaken a very thorough investigation, and of course, we will always continue to be open to work with any other organisations with expertise within the district over the 3-year programme. So it's by no means absolutely fixed at this stage, but unless we press on, we're in danger of not delivering on the programme, and that will mean that will cast doubt in terms of our ability to deliver with government, which may well have a negative impact on the way in which they respond to our Rural England Prosperity Fund bid as well, Leader. So I think that's the position we're in.
Yeah. Thank you. I agree on that. I think a lot of the problems and the questions that are being raised by members are due to the delivery time that this has run up against, particularly in the first year. I'd like to ask some questions about the governance. In 6.1 it says for each of the themes a steering group is being set up. I'd like to know how and when that's going to be set up. And in 6.2 it says that delivery partners are returning delivery profiles which will be agreed prior to their commencement. When do they have to deliver them by? So there are two questions there. I'll listen to what you've got to say and then I'll maybe come back to you.
Yeah, of course. So first of all, regarding the thematic groups. So as members will hopefully be aware, we have effectively categorised the various projects into 4 themes. So active and inclusive travel, we've got agri and regenerative farming, we've got marine economy and decarbonisation, and then we've got the wider business support and consultancy. And so it's expected that as we establish our partners through a procurement process, for the majority of them, that those partners would become part of those thematic groups to ensure that we can have regular meetings for looking at the delivery programme and how delivery is taking place. That would also have member engagement as well, so we would expect portfolio holders to be engaged with those thematic groups and to sit on, if not chair, those thematic groups potentially. And also we're looking at having business and community representation on each of those groups, but it seems pointless having them in place and meeting on a regular basis when the projects haven't started yet. So as we're looking at moving these 2 particular projects forward in a timely manner so that we can get some of the spend achieved this financial year, as per the government's recommendations. But the rest of our projects, we are looking at procurement process where they're submitting their deliverables, so the outputs that they're expecting to be able to deliver through the programme, or the projects that they're proposing to us, and that will form the basis of any service level agreement that we enter with our partners. So we will be holding them to account through that process. So the delivery tables that they're being asked to complete and return to us is effectively a list of all of the outputs and outcomes that government provided to us when they listed their interventions for the programme. And so they're filling the numbers in, saying over the 2-year period starting from April, we would be able to deliver, for example, this many jobs, this many businesses supported through non-grant funding or support or etc. etc. And so they're getting those sheets back to us so that we can see and work out exactly the numbers of each deliverable output and outcome that we'll be able to achieve through this programme. And as I say, that will form the basis of the SLA, and that is what will be then monitored through the thematic groups.
Thank you very much for that. I'm going to make a request that I'd like to be minuted, but I'm not actually going to make it an extra recommendation that you give us regular updates on how those two governance themes are progressing,
So,
please.
Yeah, and to be clear as well, that those thematic groups, we are anticipating that they would report back to the local authority on a quarterly basis, so that members are kept abreast of the progress of the programme, and also have an opportunity to steer or to influence that programme where certain projects are achieving more than we expected, or where there is underperformance.
Yes. Right, thank you very much for that. Now, members, don't forget that we've also got the Rural England Prosperity Fund. Now, again, it's very welcome. It's not a huge amount of money. It's 843,000 over 3 years. And again, year one has virtually disappeared before we knew we'd got it. So so we're up against it on that one. But that's set out on page 188 and 180, well, to 180 to 190 with the amounts. But you'll see that there are significant amounts that are meant to be spent in year one. I'm hoping that we will, in some form, be able to roll some of that over into year two.
Sorry, if I can clarify that. So the Rural England Prosperity Fund doesn't really roll off the tongue very easily, but it's a 2-year programme starting from April. So if the funding bid is successful, it would start from April this year. So.
Oh, beg your pardon, I thought we'd already got the money for that, and we haven't then yet.
Not for we're expecting the outcome of that by the end of this month from government.
Right. And we've got to pass the exam first, I'm told. So yeah, all right. Well, hopefully we will. Yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Right. Has anybody else got any questions? They can be as silly as mine, so don't worry.
Come on, Julie.
No? Councillor.
Well, yeah, it's not a question, Judy. I mean, just comment really, just on the procurement. And I mean, can I say I welcome the fact that we're allowed to because sometimes the procurement rules are so silly and so petty that they take up more time and effort than anything else. And of course, the proof of it will be within the governance. If you've got a good strategic team leading your project, then they will know what's going on, and they will understand and realise that if money is being frittered away or spent in the wrong places. We'll see what happens on that. But I mean, I have to say that overall, I really welcome these 4 projects. I think they're really good news. Opportunity for South Hams, in these times of no monies, that actually we do have a bit of flexibility here, and we've got an opportunity to do some really good work. So, I'm very positive about it, and I think that if we get it right, it could lead on to much greater and better things. Thank you.
I think I'd particularly say, what I'm going to do now, seem to have got into comments a bit, so I'm going to move the recommendations. The first one is to deliver the package of support as listed. The second one is to agree to waive the requirement for the contract procurement rules, and we've seen why that's necessary. And the third one is to approve the Rural England Prosperity Fund proposal submitted to the government, which, if successful, will begin from April 2023. Do I have a seconder? Sorry, Councillor Bustone, you should have moved that.
I know,
but
I let you carry on.
Well, no, you can move it and I'll second it, so we'll take it that way round. Sorry about that. Right. So have we got any comments, apart from Councillor Bustone admonishing me, quite rightly? No further comments? I think I'd just like to make a comment that when we set up the governance groups, we might look to include more than just the portfolio holder, because there are members who've got special interests in all those fields, and it would be right to include them on the panels, and they'd possibly be even more use than the executive member when it comes to some of the themes, because we've got plenty of farmers who know what they're talking about. Well, no, we've got plenty. I mean, I've got lots of relatives who are farmers, but I don't pretend to be a farmer myself. Right. So yeah, I am being well, yeah, and also yes, being inclusive and letting other members have a go at steering things. So
Can I just say?
you can, Councillor Bass.
I'd like to thank members for the support on this because this is crucial for the South Hams, and I particularly thank Councillor Brazil and his colleagues. We had that workshop last week, member workshop, and the enthusiasm from members was brilliant. And in fact, I had to stop questions at one stage, otherwise we wouldn't have finished in time. But thank you to all the members for the support on this. It's much appreciated.
Good, I'd agree with that. I think they are projects that chime with a lot of members, perhaps a lot more than some of the things we do. So it's really good, and I think it's good for the district too that we've got this money and the opportunity to do these projects. So with that, if there are no further comments, we'll move the recommendations. Please show if you're in agreement with them, Executive.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. So we're on to Better Lives for All, Q3, Integrated Performance Management, and the usual colourful report that we have on this. Now, yes, I gather, yes, Neil's online if anybody's got any questions that can't be answered. I'm really pleased to see that so many of the projects after nearly 2 years now are on track. We've got a few that are slightly off track, but as far as I can see, they're not seriously off track. But for various reasons, things get held up and all the rest of it. There's only a couple that are off target, or there's a risk that one can't be delivered as planned, and there's one target that isn't reported. Now, one of the recommendations in this paper is that executive members should consult with their policy leads in their own fields to ensure that the actions for year 3 in the delivery plan are still pertinent. I think there will be a few actions that we've started taking because of post-COVID and because of other things that will be, we're actually doing them, so they will be added into Better Lives for All because they're going on, and we can then track them as well and get them into the report. So if you can track down your lead officers, or I hope actually the lead officers might track you down and arrange a time to meet to discuss these things and go through your various fields before things start getting too hectic leading up to the election. Now, I should explain that the new council will take over year 3 of the delivery plans, but it was ever thus. And this was done with a purpose because a new council will come in and won't immediately know what they want to do. So this gives them some thinking time to get their own projects worked out for the following 3 years of their administration and the first year of the next administration. So the next part of this plan of Better Lives for All will be a 4-year plan so that it takes it into the first year of the following administration. So they've got thinking time. So there is a reason for it continuing into the first year of the next council. I just wanted to explain that because I've had a few comments, but it was done deliberately because otherwise we have a policy vacuum for the first year of the new council. And that is not a good idea because anybody who's leading the council soon learns that those 4 years slip by very quickly and you can find all kinds of things come along and trip you up and prevent you from getting on with things. And I've had plenty of those. So I'm really keen that the next council should have a good run at things, whoever they are. Right. Any questions on the delivery of things? Lead members, do you want to make any comments on your areas? Councillor Baldry, you're the lead member who doesn't have many areas, but...
Indeed, I am. Leader, I'm affronted because your remarks about having regular updates from officers to lead members, I'm sure we all do that anyway. I don't think we need to be reminded. Perhaps the officers need to be reminded. We as members have no need of reminding. We have regular meetings.
Councillor Baldry, I think you misunderstand me. This is to go through the actions for year 3 rather than what's going on at the moment? Have you looked at next year?
Of course I haven't.
Ah, well, you see, that's what it's to do. So yes, I think we're all very happy with the way that our relationships with our lead officers are going at the moment. But this is to look into the future to make sure that what we've got in the plan is relevant and still right for next year. So that's the point of these meetings. But you probably won't have one because your waste thing kind of moves along on its own kind of.
I won't have any for next year in any case because I won't be here, and I'm sure my successor will do very well.
Well, yes, but it's to leave your legacy for next year so that they can get on with doing their own thinking about what they want to do in that council. Yes, he'll certainly leave a legacy.
Leader, sorry, you're encouraging me. My legacy for next year is that we now have a very good waste service which is being reviewed, and changes will come in June to the waste service, but we have put the waste service back on track, and I'm proud of that particular legacy.
And we'll congratulate you on that. But well done, thank you. Councillor Hopwood, have you got something you want to say?
I have, thank you, Chairman. I didn't really know where this should be snuck into in this, so I'm just going to do it anyway. Under wellness, because Jonathan's not here to stop me. So just a bit more good news for this council, and another way in showing residents that we are fully aware of the effect the cost of living crisis is having on them. This council receives a discretionary housing payment fund each year from the Department of Work and Pensions. The fund is used to support residents struggling with rent, security deposits, and to supplement shortfalls in universal credit and housing benefits. This year, the council received £91,382. Due to the exceptional circumstances of the cost of living crisis, the team exhausted this fund in December. However, the needs of our residents have not gone away. As a result of this, I asked officers to identify where they could supplement this fund from, and they have come back and identified using unspent allocations from the COVID Business Grant New Burdens. I am pleased to say that a further £50,000 has now been moved to replenish the fund and support our residents furthermore for the rest of the financial year ahead of a new allocation from the DWP in April. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hopwood. That was a very good move, and I thank officers for releasing some extra funds for this because I'm sure they'll be needed, and it's a good thing that we're doing for people to help out the people who are really, really struggling at the moment. Now, if nobody's got any further questions, members, have you got any questions on anything that's cropping up in this paper? If not, I'll move the recommendation, which is to note the progress and delivery, and commence work with lead officers, as I've been describing, to make minor amendments to Year 3 delivery plans for consideration at the next executive meeting on the 2nd of March. So we need to be getting on with this, members of the executive. Can I have a seconder, please?
Seconded, Leader.
Thank you. Now, has anybody got any comments? There are explanations of the things that aren't on track and why they're not on track, and I think largely it's to factors beyond the control of the council, the various things that are off track, unfortunately, but we are keeping an eye on them. Councillor Hopwood.
Sorry, just under community wellbeing, would it be possible at some stage, please, to have a just to be told the about the meeting that went ahead with key partners to scope out the rural poverty pilot in South Brent? This decision was made, as you know, members didn't really know that this was going to happen. It would be nice to know what the outcome was.
Councillor Hopwood, we will arrange an update for you on that. It's a bit difficult because Councillor Hawkins isn't here today, otherwise he could be updating you. And I think...
Does Neil want to say something?
Neil, do you want to say anything on that?
Just to jump in, members, I mean, community wellbeing is on the overview and scrutiny agenda for March as an in-depth update. So that will form part of that update, but we will certainly get an update out to you before that meeting.
I'm quite happy to wait till ONS.
Okay, thank you very much. Yep. I'd actually quite like to see something on that before ONS, but right. Any other comments? No? Right. Well, in that case, we'll move to the vote on that one. Please show if you're in agreement with the recommendations.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. So the next one we go on to is the Modbury Neighbourhood Plan. Sorry, I'm afraid this is me again. Now, you will notice that this is a much longer report than we normally have at this stage of the plan. And you've got here the long-awaited Modbury Neighbourhood Plan set out in all its glory. And this is the report. We'll send it to it'll take it through to referendum if we approve it, following the examiner's examination and comments, and the fact that the Neighbourhood Plan Committee, or whatever they are, group, have accepted all the recommendations, and it's now deemed to be fit to go to referendum. Now, as I said, we don't normally have such a long report at this stage, but I'm very grateful to our new Assistant Director of Planning, who's here this morning, and to Elliot Hale, who between them have sat down and got this sorted out, because I understand this is the sort of report we should possibly have been having in the past and haven't been having. But I have to say that the neighbourhood plan regulations are quite difficult to get to grips with, and I thank them very much for sorting this out and giving us such a good plan. And actually, now they've got the template, it's going to be easier for plans in the future, isn't it? So well done getting that worked out. The Modbury Neighbourhood Plan has been a long time in gestation. It's had a few hiccups and swerves along the way, but I'm really glad to see that it's now come forward, and it will be a valuable addition to what is becoming quite a good set of neighbourhood plans in the district now. And I think really the important thing is that the important areas are getting covered, and it's where there aren't any huge issues on planning, that there aren't groups coming forward to do them. There are still a few areas that could do with groups bringing something forward and haven't yet, but on the whole, the important areas are getting covered now, because I know that Totnes is kind of coming along now, and with Totnes, this was the last of our towns really that needs completing. So so congratulations to them. Has anybody got any questions on this? No? Well, in that case, I'll move the recommendations that appear on page 223 of the agenda.
Seconded.
Thank you. Has anybody got any comments? I think I'd say that it's another Deborah McCann examination. And while she seems to have cornered the market a bit in South Hams, she does do a very good examination, and I think she makes points that are very relevant and in a fairly not challenging way, but she does explain very well why she thinks her point of view is preferable to what the plan is putting forward. And so on that basis, all her suggestions have been accepted. And so the plan is now ready to go forward to referendum. Councillor, I thought Bernard was up there, but he's not. He was.
I did look.
Yes, he seems to disappear, because I thought he might want to say something, but he's disappeared. I don't know what's happened here. Okay. Well, so if nobody's got any further comments, because if there aren't any comments, we will move to the recommendations and send this off with our good wishes for referendum. If you're in favour with the recommendations, please show.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Right, thank you, everybody. So we now move on to the reports of bodies, which are in the agenda supplement set out for you. I'm trying to get to the top of it.
One is at the end of the.
Oh, sorry, this is the EV charging thing, and the other one. Oh, have we not got both of them here now?
Yeah, one is a supplement, but one is part of the original.
Oh, Solcombe came with
agenda.
it. Yeah. Oh yes. Okay. Yes. How confusing. Right. Yes. Thank you. Yes. Okay. So the first one is the recommendation in the minutes of the Solcombe Harbour Board from. It's agenda item 16, and it's right on the end of the main agenda.
When I went out of the room.
Oh, where's the Harbour Board chairman? I don't think it's terribly important. Well, unless he wants to speak to it, that he's here for this, because we, the executive, know all about our duty holder functions, and this had to go through the approval of the Solcombe Harbour Board first. Councillor Hopwood, I know what you're going to ask about insurance, and I have asked Mr. Brooke, and I'm going to ask Mr. Brooke to confirm what he told me yesterday on this, please.
Thank you, Leader. Yes, if you're concerned about your role on the executive discharging your deputy, the duty holder function, then you're undertaking council business, and our insurance covers you in that capacity.
Thank you, Chairman. Could we have that put in the minutes, please?
Yes. Certainly, I'll ask Mr. White to include that in the minutes. Yes, he's nodding, so that will be included in the minutes. Thank you. Right, so, okay, so this recommendation is that the board agrees to its chairman signing the memorandum of understanding. Chairman of the Harbour Board, have you signed the memorandum of understanding yet?
I think I have, yeah.
Okay, well, we'll check that you have in relation to the exercise of the executive's harbour functions and its role as duty holder for the purpose of the Port Marine Safety Code, and recommends the executive authorise the leader of the council to also sign it on behalf of the executive, which I'm happy to do. I know this is a big undertaking, but it has been explained to us why it's appropriate that it should be the executive's function, and it's one going forward that I think the executive is going to have to get more to grips with and feel more comfortable with than we probably feel at the moment. But I think it's because it's very new that we don't, and it's I welcome it as a way of keeping up with what the Harbour Board does and what the Solcombe Harbour Board Committee effectively does too, and the harbour function as part of the council. Councillor Hopwood.
I don't know if we're allowed to make a comment, but I'm going to anyway. When we went down there for our last part of Harbour Board training, and we were showing around the harbour and met the staff, I just think we should be congratulating Solcombe Harbour Board and the staff down there, because it really is looking superb, and we're very lucky to have the staff we've got down there. We're very lucky to have Cam with his depth, not only his depth of knowledge, but his absolute dedication to a job which goes way above and beyond what he would be expected to do. I don't know how he keeps married, because I don't think, well, I do, his wife never sees him. I think that's the answer to it, all summer. But he really was exceptional, and the harbour and everything down there looks so well looked after, and it's really coming up into into modern days. So I think we don't ever congratulate the Solcombe Harbour Board on the job they're doing, but they certainly are doing a superb job along with the staff down there. Thank you.
Mr. Bates.
Well, thank you very much, Councillor Hopwood, and I completely share your view about the work of the harbour team. I think they're brilliantly led and they are incredibly cohesive. They understand the operation of the harbour deeply. They are absolutely focused on the safe operation of that harbour, and indeed in terms of making sure it's a welcoming place for all of our visitors. It's an absolutely key asset for Solcombe. It's a key asset for South Hams and indeed the whole of Devon. If I could go a little bit further, Leader, I'd just like to say I really support and welcome this decision. I think what it does is to strengthen the governance and also ensure that what is a really productive working relationship between the Harbour Board and the Executive and the wider Council is clear in terms of its expectations, which is good. So we're in a very good place, I think, in terms of all those relationships. And this is simply the formalising of the reality. Thank you, Leader.
Yes, I think I'd really like to second what everybody's said, because we've got this satellite of the well, effectively the Salcombe Harbour Committee, because it's a committee of the council, kind of working down there in Salcombe, looking after everything, and particularly looking after the harbour and all the estuary so well that and we don't have to worry too much about them, because they just get on with it, and they do their own budget, and they get things sorted out, and they just keep themselves going in such a functional way that it really isn't a problem for the council. I am sorry about their harbour workshop that is having a few difficulties at the moment, but it's not their fault at all, not their fault. And I think once again the harbour master has been absolutely brilliant in helping to get it sorted out with Dan Field, and they are in a better place, but there is a slight delay on it. Anyway, that's not in this recommendation, which I'm now going to move and ask for a seconder. Do you want to say something?
Well, I just want to say, I mean, I thank what Nikki said, and you too, Judy. And but just to say that I mean, some might argue that the harbour functions incredibly well despite the harbour board. You know, I think that the credit is really down to our staff there. Cam and his senior team, and indeed all the staff there, do a fantastic job. And really, for a board, we just, you know, it's like no news is good news, and it's incredibly light touch for us, because they just get on and do it, and it's fantastic.
But I think the important thing is you have now got a really good set of external Harbour Board members who are there to give the right advice when it's required, and they really know their stuff. So that's really encouraging as well. Okay, so we'll move to the recommendation. All those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Right, now we move on to the agenda supplement, and this glossy glossy, what is it, policy, EV charging policy. Now, this is a recommendation that's come through to us from the policy development of overview and scrutiny. But in fact, if I understand things rightly, they've largely taken over the county policy, but it's been reinvented, looking really nice, with lots of photographs in it. This is what I've been trying to get policies to look like for the last 4 years, and at last we have one. So congratulations, it's really good. And I'm going to ask Councillor Holway to introduce it, because this is his area.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, the photos are really good, despite Councillor Badstone trying to edge me out of one of them, but I'll forgive him for that. Yeah, we do line up an awful lot with Devon County's strategy. And no apologies for that, because it's good that we will work together with them and various commercial suppliers. One bit of good news that I've had this morning is that National Grid will be taking away the charges, what are more or less prohibitive charges for beefing up the network, and I think that's really important in an area like this, because the charges were very high, but we do rely on National Grid for being able to provide the power, and indeed I think some of the progress will be limited by what National Grid can do for us. Not an awful lot more for me to say, but we can answer any questions that members may have.
Thank you very much, Councillor Holway. Anybody got any questions? Adam's online, so if there's anything that Tom can't answer, Adam can answer for you. Any other members got any questions? Morning, Adam, good to see you there. But it looks like nobody's got any questions for you. So Councillor Hallway, would you like to move the recommendation in?
Yes, do you want me to read it through or just?
Yes, just
Yes,
read it
right.
through so everybody's clear what we're.
The Overview and Scrutiny Committee recommend the content of the draft EV strategy as set out at Appendix A to the published minutes to the Executive and their officers be requested to undertake a public consultation exercise on the strategy in line with the Council's consultation and engagement strategy. So I so move.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to second that. Any comments from members? Councillor Hopwood.
Sorry, just one question and a comment, and I should have asked a question in the questions, I realise that. But why is it only a 2-year strategy is my question. And my comment is, I welcome this paper because it shows our commitment as a council towards becoming carbon neutral, and everything helps, and this is yet something else we're doing. We've put it in place. And it will help to reduce our carbon emissions as a council. So I welcome the paper. I just wonder why it's only 2 years.
Can you answer that, Councillor Hallway? Because if not, we'll go over to Adam Williams.
I think, well,
true.
I will seek advice from Adam, but I think we have to accept that it's a scenario that will change.
Yeah,
You know, there's all sorts of things in the background, for instance, with regard to vehicles, not necessarily electric. There's moves to power them internal combustion engines using hydrogen, for instance, and all of that's in the offing, but we don't really know which way things are going. So
I'm actually
where we are.
Adam, forgive me. I'm actually going to move to Mr. Powell because I think he's got an answer on this one.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, we've for the reasons that Councillor Hallway's explained, really, this is a very, very changing situation. At the moment, we've set out plans till 2025. This will evolve all the way through. What I would add to that is that it was mentioned at the beginning that we've aligned with Devon County Council. I'd like to say that we're ahead of Devon County Council. This is very much a strategy for South Hams. If you look at the marine element of this is something specific to the South Hams, which we're working hard on. And also, you know, we will have this consulted and hopefully adopted ahead, but we'll continue to work with the County Council for the benefits that the partnership will achieve. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to comment that I think this is a really good example of where a task and finish group to develop policy from overview and scrutiny has worked exceedingly well. And I would like to publicly thank Councillor Spencer for chairing this group and getting such a good result without any fuss and really quite quickly. And it's really, you know, the result is good on this. So, and thank you, Councillor Hallway, as well for your part in this. So, right. So we've got the recommendation moved. We've got no further comments, unless anybody's popping up I haven't seen yet. So shall we move? We'll vote on the recommendation. Those in favour, please show.
That's unanimous, the recommendations. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. And if I'm not mistaken, that brings us to the end of this morning's agenda. Thank you very much for attending, members. I'm now going to close the meeting.